run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power,
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am
I am
tired,
tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name is Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
Hey, what do you say, friends and neighbors? Good morning, good morning. It is Tuesday, April 29, and here we are, the Bill Press Show at our studio in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill, booming out to you on Free Speech TV all across this great land of ours, and, of course, worldwide on our video stream at TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. President Obama winds up his Asian tour, week-long tour of Asia today in the Philippines, and then will wing his way home on Air Force One to Washington later today, arriving about 7 p.m. on the south lawn of the White House from Andrews Air Force Base, of course. Air Force One does not land on the south lawn of the White House. Before he left the Philippines, the president stoutly defended his foreign policy, saying it is steady. It is resolute. It is effective, even if there have been no dramatic achievements over his term. Meanwhile, Congress is back in town. Hold on to your wallets. And the buzz is that it looks like House Republicans may have been having second thoughts and may want to do something about immigration reform this year after all. And, of course, all they have to do, all Boehner has to do, is schedule a vote on this bill that passed the Senate, and it would be easily done. Boom, and President Obama would sign it. And out in California, sponsors are lining up to dump the Clippers. They don't want anything to do anymore with that racist owner, Donald Sterling. Meanwhile, the NBA chief, Adam Silver, has scheduled a news conference this afternoon where he is supposed to announce the results of his investigation. Was it really Donald Sterling on the tape? After all, everybody is pretty sure that it was, and we can't wait for Adam Silver to drop the hammer. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS and join the conversation. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
President Obama on his way home on Air Force One from Manila, arriving late this evening in Washington, D.C., where the House and the Senate are already back in town, and so are we, and now so are you. Hey, what do you say? Good Tuesday morning, friends and neighbors. Thank you for joining us here on the Bill Press Show here this Tuesday morning, April 29. Yes, coming to you live from our nation's capital, bringing you the news of the day wherever it's happening, whether it's in the Philippines or in Los Angeles or here in Washington, D.C., anywhere else on the planet. We got it covered. We'll tell you what's going on. You tell us what it all means to you by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS, 866-55-77-377, here on your local progressive talk radio station nationwide. Here also simulcast on Free Speech TV nationwide and worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, Tawkr TV. Hope you know how to spell it by now. Don't forget, you can also send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show. And we love hearing from all of our friends on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. The friends start out right here with our team, Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Alicia Cruz here to take your phone calls at 866-55-PRESS, and Cyprian Bolding. He's got the cameras on, looking good, our videographer. So the whole team here this morning. How about it?
Yes, sir.
And the big news in the entertainment world yesterday, boy, they're dropping like flies.
I know.
Right?
I mean, right? First David Letterman, now Craig Ferguson last night.
At the end of this year, I will be stepping down as the host of this show. Thanks, everybody. That was quite convincing. I'll be stepping down at the end of this year in December, and then I'll go and do something else. Probably, I'm thinking carpentry.
So what's he going to do? What do you think?
He's got his hands in a lot of different new productions coming up, a game show and some other syndicated material he's going to work on. He's a funny guy. He never quite had the following that Letterman had when he was in that same slot.
Right.
You know, Letterman went from there to take on...
and he wasn't considered, right? I mean, he didn't...
His name never came up.
I never heard him mentioned.
Never heard him mentioned.
Kind of a blow.
Yeah. So just getting out. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, look, he's still going to make a ton of money. He's still going to be out there somewhat in the limelight. He's just not going to have the 12:30 slot anymore.
No. I got to tell you, it was hard enough for me ever watching the late night. Watching the late. No. The late. He's just getting off the air when I'm getting up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, so, right. All right. Big show coming up today. It's Tuesday, and I know most of you are here. Not for me or Peter or Lisa. You're here for Arthur Delaney. He'll be coming up in just a half an hour with Igor Volsky at the next hour. It's the Arthur and Igor day here at the Bill Press Show. Clinton Yates, son of the favorite, will be here as a friend of Bill a little bit later, and we'll be joined by Leo Gerard, the president of the Steelworkers Union, one of our most colorful and outspoken labor leaders in the country today. And the sponsors are deserting the sinking ship called the Clippers. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. The D.C. media landscape is about to change, as Capital New York reported yesterday. Politico is looking to amp up their Los Angeles bureau, so they are sending a few reporters out there. One of them, Todd Purdom, is moving out to Los Angeles. Another, Dylan Byers.
Our own Dylan Byers.
Our friend Dylan Byers is moving out of the Beltway, far out to Los Angeles. It was a memo distributed to Politico yesterday afternoon. He said he's going to continue to write about the media from his new home in L.A., but he will continue to visit Politico headquarters in Roslyn often.
Yeah, Dylan getting married this summer.
That's right.
This fall, I guess, whatever. And in Big Sur, and then he and Kara are going to live in Los Angeles.
There you go. Not bad.
West Coast guy wants to get back to the West Coast.
Yeah, he's there.
Politico taking over the nation. They got the operation in L.A. or D.C., of course, where they started. They branched into New York. Now L.A.
Yep.
Can Dallas be far behind? Right? Chicago next, maybe.
That's it. For years when scientists study data, they use lab rats or mice, right? Like that's a pretty common, well-known practice. A new study could turn all of that research on its head. It's a study published in Nature Methods, and they found out that lab mice fear men, but not women.
Really?
And so all of the data that they've collected over the years may be tainted because of male scientists versus female scientists. The lab rats have a different reaction to male humans than to female
Well, mice or rats?
Well,
Both?
mice, lab mice.
Mice,
Lab
okay. And rats like men better? Do we know about rats?
Naturally.
Yeah, right.
Naturally.
So they're going to have to redo all of this.
All these years of research on lab mice may be completely tainted.
I'll tell you one thing. Women don't like mice.
I know a lot of men that don't like mice either. You're looking at one. It's bad news for the Washington Nationals. Yesterday found out that their star left fielder Bryce Harper
on the bench
is going in for surgery today to repair a torn ligament in his left thumb. He will be out and inactive until at least July.
I know.
Wow.
Boy. Yeah.
That's some bad news.
Big
for the Nationals. He injured it when he was sliding into third on Friday during their win against the San Diego Padres. He went on to play for another inning with the busted thumb. They finally took a look at it, determined it was ligament damage. He needs surgery, so it's a tough break.
Yeah, it is a tough break. Tough break for the Nats. Okay. Yes, indeed. Well, the big news is this morning about Donald Sterling, of course, disgraced owner of the Clippers. In case you were wondering, he will not be getting the Lifetime Achievement Award, after all, from the NAACP.
You don't say.
No. Yeah.
No?
In fact, the head of the NAACP in Los Angeles yesterday was a little embarrassed in explaining to reporters why he was even selected to get it in the first place. And the fact of it is that his foundation had given more money to minority groups in Los Angeles than any other organization. And so because of that, they were going to give this fat pig the Lifetime Achievement Award. Well, they have now rescinded that at any rate. The Miami Heat last night joined in the same silent protest, if you will, that the Clippers players did on Sunday. They took off their warm-up jackets and they had their shirts on inside out, so you couldn't see the name of their team, although their team has nothing to do other than being in the same league. But it just shows how widespread among players certainly is a disgust with Donald Sterling and the hope, I think, for all of them, that the players and the NBA itself will take some strong action once it's proven that it was Donald Sterling's voice on the tape. And by the way, I haven't heard anybody say it was not his voice. Not even Donald Sterling has said, that's not my voice, right?
Right.
I mean, the people that played for him, worked with him, I saw several of them interviewed, and they all said, yep, we're pretty sure it's him.
Yeah.
And he hasn't denied it. His wife hasn't denied it's his voice. They just say that's not what he believes. He said it, but he's really a nice guy. Yeah, come on.
If that's you, or if you're being accused of that, right? You come up pretty quickly and you make clear that's not me. You don't do what he did.
Right. How can that be my voice? Here's what I sound like. Whatever.
Right.
There's been no such denial. Meanwhile, the NBA has, Adam Silver, head of the NBA, has scheduled a news conference for this afternoon where he will announce the findings of their investigation and what action he plans to take. So my question to you this morning is, what do you think Adam Silver should do? Drop the hammer? Fine him? Fine him and let him go? Fine him and let him stay? I don't think that'll fly. I think it's got to be more than that. We'll talk more about it. 866-55-PRESS. But while we're waiting for that, let's have a big cheer for CarMax. Let's have a big cheer for Amtrak. A big cheer for Red Bull. You name them. 12 sponsors yesterday. They didn't wait for any investigation. They didn't wait for the NSA or the FBI to say, nah, that's his voice. They didn't wait for Adam Silver to say what he was going to do, what the players were going to do. Here's the list that I've got. At least there were the 12 that I saw. I mentioned CarMax was the first, right out of the box. followed by Corona, Mercedes-Benz, Virgin America, State Farm, Red Bull, Sprint, Amtrak, Kia, Lone Mart, the Yokohama Tire Company, and something called Aqua Hydrate. They all said, we are dropping you like a hot potato, baby. We don't want our products associated with those racist comments. And some of them have been there, like I think CarMax have been 9 years as the chief sponsor of the Clippers, and they just said, boom, didn't hesitate, boom, done. That's you. We don't want anything to do with it. Meanwhile, other people have had different maybe reactions. Donald Trump, he blames, of course, Donald Trump would blame the girlfriend.
It's terrible. He got set up by a very bad girlfriend. Let's face it. That whole thing is she's called the girlfriend from hell.
Right.
But what he said was terrible and despicable, and a very strong action is going to be taken. There's no question about it.
Yeah. Well, he might have been set up.
Yeah.
But the fact is, he said it.
Yeah.
Okay. It's disgusting.
So maybe she set him up. Let's not start out by saying, "Oh, it's terrible." She set him up.
Yeah.
You know what?
Very bad girlfriend.
Yeah. Of all the terrible things in this situation, the girlfriend setting him up is probably the least terrible.
By the way, has anybody figured out what's going on with this wife of his? It seems like the girlfriend was no secret, right?
Clearly not.
There are all these pictures of him with her at the games.
Sits next to him at the games.
Yeah. And I guess everybody knew about it, right? Including the wife.
Yeah.
Who is defending her husband for everything, right? So yeah.
Some people could just get away with murder, man.
You'd expect Donald Trump to dump on the girlfriend, right? Because he's got such a great record himself.
Right.
Yeah, and according to Conan O'Brien, though, we haven't heard the last of the very, very bad girlfriend.
It's being reported that the girlfriend of Donald Sterling may have 100 more hours of his racist audio. Yeah. Or as Rush Limbaugh calls it, a month's worth of talk radio. Just play it. You're in good shape.
In fact, I do want to announce that I am going to Paris next month, and while I'm gone, we are just going to play the tape. We're going to play the audio tape.
100 hours.
100 hours, yes. We'll just let it ride, and you can decide whether or not Donald Sterling is a racist or not. Man. So now back to Adam Silver, head of the NBA. He's going to make his find today. I got to tell you, again, tell me what you think, 866-55-PRESS. I don't think he's got to go all the way. He's got to drop the hammer. He cannot. I think there's got to be a fine, and I think somehow, I don't know exactly what his power is and how he will do it. Somehow, the end result has to be Donald Sterling is no longer the owner of the Clippers, or the Clippers are no longer in the NBA. I mean, it's got to be one. It seems to me one or the other. It can't be any little pussyfooting thing like, well, we'll suspend him for 2 games, or we'll suspend him for the rest of the season. Out the door.
I agree. It's got to be very, very severe. I think that any kind of fine,
cut him off.
Any kind of fine is not going to cut it because he clearly has the money.
Alone, yeah.
Is that going to cut it alone? Right. Yeah, a fine alone won't cut it. There's still the question of what can the NBA do to Sterling, and I'm very anxious to see what. I'm sure that they have people working on it, and I'm sure that if there is a loophole that will allow the NBA commissioner to tell Donald Sterling, "You're done," then that's what they'll do.
They better do it because people really. I think everybody's counting on them. Fans are counting on them. Players are counting on them. The other team owners are counting on them. The new generation of team owners, because he's just one of the old farts.
It's a great way to put it.
That the new owners are embarrassed by this thug, right? So. And I hope they find a way to do it without punishing the players. Let the players continue to play, but just without him. 866-55-PRESS. Donald Sterling starts us off again this morning. Let's talk about it.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You make it sound very easy to take these 90-degree turns in your career. You went from engineering to law. But there's an awful lot of people at that age who feel they're on a track, they've invested time in learning a career, and they need to see it through to the end, or maybe their parents are pushing them to stay in one route. What is your advice for a young person?
Stay away from your parents.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
My mom is a pretty spectacular human being. We essentially came to the United States as refugees. And that is when I really got to understand who my mom was as a person. Being a refugee in a foreign country, you would think that it would affect you so much. It was like my mom, nothing changed for my mom. What was really at her core and her center was always being with her kids and getting to spend time with them and making sure that they were okay and making sure that they could still go out and play soccer. I knew that if my goal was to go to Liberia and to work on economic justice so that, kids could go to school and have access to a doctor if they have malaria, that if I bet on their moms, we win.
I think I just come from a lineage of kick-ass women is all I can say. My grandmother came to this country from Mexico as a single mom with 5 children. And I, have an amazing mother who had 3 children, was going to school, working full-time. Almost my story. But she did that and got her bachelor's degree at 40. And so I had a great role model. When I came home and told my mom I was pregnant, her response to me wasn't, your life is over. Her response to me is, well, I want a plan. You need to, let me know what you're gonna do about this because you're now responsible for somebody else.
I was the first one in my family to go to college, and my parents were very proud of it. They both had to work. My mom in a factory and my dad in the supermarket, and I was their success story. However, on graduation day, they said, are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be an engineer? You're going to be a businessman? What are you going to, lawyer? I said, I'm going to join the Peace Corps. And they said, what? My parents were very much opposed to this, and it was very difficult.
How much pressure did they put on you?
Tremendous pressure. Up until we were leaving from O'Hare Airport for me to go to Peru, my mother questioning me, like, where is Peru? You've never been out of the country. What do you know? Do they have doctors? Do they speak English there? What are you going to eat? You like my cooking? I said, Mom, I'm going to be a pioneer. Why do you always have to be the pioneer? Let them do it. Let them come back, and then you go. I said, no, I want to be the first to go.
I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, so there was a lot of gang activity, and one of my friends actually was murdered on a basketball court when a 15-year-old child shot him in the back of the head. And I was just hopeless. And my mom actually, she brought me to a place of empathy for the kids who were involved in actually murdering him, because my mom sort of said, look, where do you think those kids are coming from? And then she said, so if you're angry about it, do something. Actually change the way this world works.
This is the Bill Press Show.
25 minutes after the hour now. Yes, indeed. It is a moment of truth this afternoon for the NBA. Where are they located? New York, I guess, right?
I think so.
At any rate, Adam Silver, the new head, he's only been there a couple of months, new head of the NBA, will be making that announcement. Everybody's looking forward to some strong and very forceful action on the part of the NBA. Meanwhile, about the voice, any doubt about the voice? This big investigation. Jimmy Kimmel last night talked about again, sort of the point that nobody denies it except maybe Donald Sterling should.
Why publicize it on the Instagram and why bring it to my games?
On the Instagram. That voice belongs to Donald Sterling. Although if I was him, I would say it was Mel Gibson. I really would.
All right. So what should the NBA do? What can they do? What is the proper punishment? Let's go out to Chicago. Hello, John. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Press.
Bill. Yes, thank you. Right. What do you think?
My thoughts are the NBA should strip the gentleman of his franchise, sell it off in a manner that's beneficial to all the league and the players, and then fine him the equal value to what it was sold at, leaving him standing there with nothing more than nothing in his hands.
That would be. But here's the question, John. I mean, and I do not know the answer to this question, whether they have that authority.
Well, that's up for them to decide, but if I understand franchising in my humble way, the franchisor has the right to oversee all franchises and detract from those who aren't treating them in a proper manner.
Well, no, that's the point. I mean, they do have a franchise from the NBA, right, which there must be some conditions to it, and I would think he who gives the franchise can take away the franchise, right?
Agree 100% with you, sir.
Yeah. All right. Hey, John, thanks so much. WCPT, our great friends out in Chicago. Thanks for joining us.
There are possible loopholes that would allow that to happen, right? But as it stands, it's a matter of other owners taking action against another owner. I'm not saying that's right.
Yeah.
But that's sort of how it's built now. So the other owners would have to rally together and say, we want him gone.
Well, then, if that's the case, right, then I would hope that Adam Silver would have done his homework.
Yes.
And he would have made a few calls.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And I was reading this morning somewhere, I forget now, about how there is a big, I mentioned this a little bit earlier in the last segment, big division between new owners, younger owners who have come in, who are really committed to the game, as opposed to somebody like this guy who's a big divorce lawyer, I think, before he bought the Clippers, right? But nothing to do with basketball, right? He just had a lot of money and bought this team. And those are the old-fashioned kind of owners, and they're fading out. I hope Silver has collected the younger owners and has the votes necessary to throw them out. Arthur Delaney joins us next
from
from
Bill
Huffington
Press
Post.
Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I talk to undergraduates and graduate students who are desperate to go out and start something and build something and be the one to come up with that silver bullet solution. And I just want to say, slow down.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
Most of the people you're talking to who want to come into the social change space, are they prepared?
If you're early in your career, there's a couple of really important things to do. The first one is just to shut the hell up and don't talk for about 5 years and work really, really hard. The only way you're going to be given more difficult things to do is by solving the ones you're already given. And if you're somebody who's always complaining or wants to be promoted above where they really are, you can't learn enough to start to take on a greater pool of responsibilities.
Advice you would give a person coming out of college is go work for other people, make your mistakes on their dime.
That sounds like me, absolutely.
It does sound like you.
And you know who that came from is one of my board members, Eric Buttline. Eric had seen me start a few companies as a young kid. I mean, I started my first real company when I was 16. And Eric said, "Chid, do me a favor. I know you have this thing in your head that you think you're this great entrepreneur, but like go work for somebody for a little while and just learn how things are supposed to be done. And when you're done with that, let's have another conversation about, your next venture."
And I think another thing to remember, and this is something that I've really only learned in the past couple of years, is that although the problems are urgent and so important for us to address, I need to have more patience. I'm not going to solve those problems on my own. You're not going to solve those problems on your own. I'm an apprentice in all of this. I'm an apprentice in life. I'm an apprentice in problem solving. I'm not going to change the world until I'm at least 65. That's my goal at this point.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org to let us know your thoughts.
Tune into the Thom Hartmann Program, a live broadcast featuring the nation's #1 progressive talk show host. Phones open at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Free Speech TV.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour, it is The Bill Press Show. Good Tuesday morning. We're coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, brought to you today by the American Federation of Teachers, the good men and women of the AFT, making a difference in America's classrooms every day under President Randy Weingarten. You bet. And you can find out more about their good work at aft.org. And you can find out more about the good work of Arthur Delaney and Huffington Post and HuffPost Hill right here, right now, because he is here. Arthur, good morning.
Good morning.
Good Tuesday morning. Everything looking sharp this morning with your
Thank
blazer. Yeah.
I wear this blazer in here kind of often, but everyone's knows it's the pale blue shirt instead of
oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Instead of the plaid.
I really look like a jerk.
Yeah. You look like a logger in your plaid shirt. So, I was just reading your, if we can hear, the Daily Delaney Downer yesterday that you had reported in HuffPost still, from a guy out in Chicago. Quote, I worked for a major bank for 33 years, helping our clients, their business, and the community. I got 6 months of unemployment, and it stopped. I've been trying to get a job in the banking industry again. I have a whole folder of postings I applied for. Chicago's the third worst state for unemployment. The extension would help me pay medical expenses and bills. What can you tell a guy like that? You say, hang in there, right? I mean, there are millions and millions of people like that all over the country.
Right. So he got 6 months of benefits and it stopped, and that's because when his state benefits ended, there were no federal benefits because Congress let those expire in December. So he would have gotten another several months at least had that not been the case.
And these people are really just SOL. I mean, they're right.
They really are.
Yeah, and no, even though the Senate has passed a bill, still no prospect of any action in the House on that issue.
It is not on the majority leader's agenda. Eric Kennedy puts out every few weeks a list of what we're going to do in our next work session here when they're in session for 9 weeks. And it's just not on there. Speaker Boehner's not interested in it. There is not a lot of reason to think it will pass unless Democrats become willing to give Republicans major policy wins and attach those to the benefits. And then it would have to go back to the Senate.
Yeah,
and then, Harry Reid's not, you'd have to convince him to do it too.
But
It's not
the
a good
Senate,
situation.
so the Senate has acted on unemployment benefits to extend for 5 months, and which would expire like tomorrow because we're almost into May. Meanwhile, you also report here, Leader Reid is setting up a minimum wage vote for this week.
For tomorrow.
For tomorrow. There you go.
And
I thought they were going to do this in January also.
Well, all this stuff's on their economic agenda, and they've been talking about it so much that I guess it probably seems like it's always afoot.
Mm-hmm.
But they will have a vote tomorrow. It's not going to pass. They won't even get probably all the Democrats. Word is Mark Pryor, conservative Democrat in Arkansas, won't say yes. And as if that's going to save him.
Yeah.
As if that will help him win
But
re-election. I don't
this
fully
will go up to $10.10 an hour, right?
Yeah, and pegging it to inflation. So gradually raise it to $10.10 an hour over several years, and then peg it to inflation, which would take this off the table indefinitely. One reason it didn't happen, actually, we found out when these Clinton documents were released last week, is that Gene Sperling said, let's not do this inflation peg because then we'll lose the issue.
Oh, Jesus.
This is profoundly cynical.
Right. They could have done it then.
They
maybe.
coulda.
Maybe. Right. Yeah, because they had the Congress then. But, well, I mean, I would think that this would get the support, that they could get this through the Senate. I just can't believe that not all Democrats would vote for it. Any Democrat who thinks that he or she is going to win re-election, right, by opposing, or that let's put it this way, that voting for an increase in a minimum wage is going to cost them their Senate seat is nuts. It's crazy.
Popular. It's popular with Republicans. The thing is, it's not popular with the people who decide to spend money against you on TV ads. Americans for
like
Prosperity,
the Koch brothers, right?
And the Koch brothers, because they're the ones who would have to pay it.
Yeah, but even they can only buy so much. I mean, the polls show that I think 70-80% of people say, we ought to have a higher minimum wage.
$10.10 an hour. It might sound like a lot of money. The real value of the minimum wage in 1968 was higher than $10.10 an hour. If you were to peg that to inflation then, it would be higher than this today.
The other outrage is, nobody talks about it, the tipped minimum wage.
Oh.
I mean, what is it like?
That's a real...
You got very excited over that.
Well, seriously, these waiters and waitresses are making like $2 an hour, right? $2.10, something like that.
If you work if you get paid with tips, you're allowed to be paid this much lower minimum wage. In the restaurant lobbyists,
I don't think there is a minimum wage, actually. Is there for...
Yeah, it's a tipped minimum wage. It's it's $2.13 or something.
I think that's right. It's 2 and change.
And that is real low. And of course, that's an industry where you get no benefits, no sick leave.
Right.
You get ill, you just got to come in and sneeze on all your customers.
And that's a number that hasn't changed much. I don't remember ever hearing that the tipped minimum wage.
It is a testament to the clout of restaurant lobbyists.
That, in fact, I saw there was a full-page ad, I believe it was in the New York Times yesterday, that said we have to take on the NRA. And, no, we have to take on the other NRA.
The National Restaurant
Restaurant Association, which has been the chief lobbying force in keeping down, in opposing any increase in the minimum wage for tipped workers. But, that also, so you get $2.13 an hour or whatever it is, that assumes that every day is a good day, right? In Washington, D.C., when the Congress shuts down, restaurants don't do a great deal of business here.
The law says, I bet this isn't something that happens a whole lot, but that if your tips are so low that it's below minimum wage, your restaurant has to make up the difference. But whatever, that's not gonna.
How often do you think that happens?
Well, even if that, that's your $15,000 a year if you're making the minimum wage.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, it depends on it depends on the restaurants being busy and people tipping substantially.
The bigger question here is, do you want to keep the system where these people have a low minimum wage and then rely on tips and the vagaries of tipping etiquette? I personally love tipping. Always give 20% or more, and I feel like because thanks to other cheapskates, it makes you look like a real winner to your server or your bartender.
Yeah.
But is it really a good system? I mean,
no.
There ought to be reform there.
Look,
which is never an excuse not to tip, but
no, I'm a big tipper too. I do 20% and then I add on top of it.
Yeah.
Okay. And frankly, I even do it if the service isn't all that great. Maybe I do a little bit less, but I mean, I will always tip and tip generously. But it's a hell of it's a crazy system, and there are now restaurants. How do we get off on this tangent? I don't know, but I like it because I eat out a lot, and there are a lot of restaurants now that are starting to say no. They'll raise their price and do away with tips and pay people the minimum wage. I'd rather see that for waiters.
Well, I want them to get more than the minimum wage.
I would say a living wage.
A living wage.
Right. No, but I mean, why not do away with tipping? Peter, you big foodie.
Yeah, look, the argument against it, right? Because you hear it from restaurant owners that are for it and against it, right? So the ones that are for it say, well, we could pay our workers better, and that's a win-win. But the ones that are against it say, well, we're going to have to raise the price of food on everything. So if you go to let's say you go to a fine dining restaurant and you're going to pay $25 for an entree, right? For a nice meal, that's going to double, right? Is the argument that some people are making? That's the argument that some people are making. When you have to start paying someone not $2.13, but pay them a living wage.
This is also an industry where nobody has health insurance. Like according to one survey, it's 80 or 90% of restaurants just don't offer it. I don't know though that you would want to see that change right now when the whole health insurance system is in flux and people are looking longingly toward the day when employers are not the biggest providers of health insurance in this country and health insurance is decoupled from employment. Which I think would be a good thing, and most people agree. Do you want to bring them into the fold before that happens, or is it an opportunity for
Well, I think
change?
I just think we should start the movement right now to do away with tipping.
The problem with this is it's going to galvanize cheapskates who'll go to a restaurant that doesn't pay a decent wage and say, well, I'm philosophically against tipping. And it's just going to screw over. This is the new
Bundy Ranch.
Yeah.
You're going to take a stand over to
Yeah.
No. I think I mean, it's either big tips or no tips. But big tips or no tips and pay more.
You know who could be a leader on this? Who worked in restaurants and who we know is a great tipper? Paul Ryan.
Paul Ryan?
When he was a congressional staffer in the 1990s, he worked at Tortilla Coast.
That's right.
And there was this great TPM story a couple of years ago where some lady saw him eating at Bistro B. I think it's a very fancy restaurant. Beast. Excuse me.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Can't afford the place. Anyway, she's outraged that he's drinking like fancy wine with lobbyists. And she screams at him or something. And then after they leave their table, she took a picture of the wine. And it was like a $400 bottle of wine or something. And the receipt.
Oh, really?
And he had left a very sizable and appropriate tip. It's more than 20%. For someone who always talks about work and the dignity of work, he could be a real leader if we're ever going to have tip reform.
I don't know. If I count on Paul Ryan to do anything to help the poor, I think it's going to be a cold day in hell before that happens. Arthur Delaney is here with us from Huffington Post. But I want to ask you more about Paul Ryan when we come back.
Good segue.
I'm working on a good story about that. And also, if we're talking about restaurants, I want to ask you about a great restaurant in New York called Healthilicious. I've heard lots of good things about it. We'll be right back with Arthur Delaney. Join the conversation at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Here we go now with Arthur Delaney from Huffington Post. We've been talking about minimum wage, and particularly the minimum wage, the tipped minimum wage, they call it, which has not, we just discovered, has not been increased since
1991.
1991.
So it was,
and it's still $2.13 an hour.
And the minimum wage did go up for everyone else in the 90s.
1990s.
So you can call it the skipped minimum wage.
Oh, very good. But I think The last time with was President George W. Bush in 2004, I believe, or so.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it went up for everyone else.
Yeah,
To
right.
$7.25.
But not tipped minimum wage. Marcia is calling from Raleigh, North Carolina. Hey, Marcia, good morning.
Good morning. So listen, tip minimum wage may not be, the service minimum wage, it may not be the worst thing in the world. And I know all the servers out there going, ah!
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's really strange. Okay, buffet is different than full service, and you're getting paid based on how many tables you can turn over, because you need a new customer to come in to get more money, right? So in a buffet, the person quickly eats and gets up. In a full service, the person stays there for the whole time. Usually, a server works about 4 hours for a shift. Okay, they're not working full 8-hour days, so they work 4 hours, and if they need more, then they come back for the night. 4 hours for the day, then they come back for the night.
Are you a restaurant owner?
No, I was a server.
You were a server.
And I was surprised. Okay, so they tell you you're getting $2.15 plus tips. If you're at the end of your shift, if your tips don't add up to what you would have made, like if you made 4 hours, and let's average 8,000 hours, let's say, is the minimum wage for McDonald's, throughout the country or whatever. And if you haven't made $28, we're going to pay you the balance. That's what the restaurant tells you. So when you come to them and you've only made $10 in tips, you say, "Hey, where's the balance?" They say, "You got to wait till your week is out."
Okay, wait. This is in the interest of time, getting too complicated. Marcy, I appreciate the call, but there's a lot of information there, and I'm not denying her information, but I think the answer is get rid of the tips and pay everybody a living wage.
She may have been building to the point that recovering the difference between what you would have received in the real minimum wage is difficult. Like, you got to go and tell, you got to complain, and then you got to wait till your pay period.
Sure.
And then if you made more on some other night, and they say, no, your average is still above the federal minimum wage for non-tipped workers, that's real tough.
I'm sure that's where she was heading, and I can understand that. You're dealing with the mercy of the restaurant or the charity of the restaurant owner, right? And it's not going to work. Related, can I mention something else I learned from your HuffPost Hill last night?
Yes.
That the White House does not pay its interns.
Oh.
Not even the minimum wage.
Yep.
They've got thousands of interns, right? Or hundreds of interns. And no pay for White House interns?
It's scandalous. I predict that the White House is going to start paying its interns. If you recall, in the last year, several liberal magazines, including, I think, I could be mistaken, but Mother Jones, for example, were attacked by conservative media, pointing out that these magazines are going after groups that don't pay their interns. They don't pay their interns. And those magazines started paying their interns because it's not that much money. I mean, it's an easy enough thing to change.
I know it's an honor to work at the White House, but even interns at the White House have to eat, and they have to pay their, they have to ride the metro, and they have to pay their rent. I predict that somebody may ask Jay Carney this question at a White House briefing coming up later this week.
It's going to be you.
Damn right it will.
Okay.
All right, Arthur, thanks for the ammunition. Thanks for coming in today. All right, Arthur Delaney, HuffingtonPost.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Wherever you are.
Coming up at the top of the next hour, Igor Volsky on a Tuesday here from thinkprogress.org. Lots to talk about, and then a little bit later, Seung Kim from Politico covers Congress for Politico, and Congress is back in town. So let's start out with Igor at the top of the next hour. Stay with us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hey, what do you say, friends and neighbors? Good morning, good morning. It is Tuesday, April 29, and here we are, the Bill Press Show at our studio in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill, booming out to you on Free Speech TV all across this great land of ours, and, of course, worldwide on our video stream at TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. President Obama winds up his Asian tour, week-long tour of Asia today in the Philippines, and then will wing his way home on Air Force One to Washington later today, arriving about 7 p.m. on the south lawn of the White House from Andrews Air Force Base, of course. Air Force One does not land on the south lawn of the White House. Before he left the Philippines, the president stoutly defended his foreign policy, saying it is steady, it is resolute, it is effective, even if there have been no dramatic achievements over his term. Meanwhile, Congress is back in town. Hold on to your wallets. And the buzz is that it looks like House Republicans may have been having second thoughts and may want to do something about immigration reform this year after all. And, of course, all they have to do, all Boehner has to do, is schedule a vote on this bill that passed the Senate, and it would be easily done. Boom, and President Obama would sign it. And out in California, sponsors are lining up to dump the Clippers. They don't want anything to do anymore with that racist owner, Donald Sterling. Meanwhile, the NBA chief, Adam Silver, has scheduled a news conference this afternoon where he is supposed to announce the results of his investigation. Was it really Donald Sterling on the tape? After all, everybody is pretty sure that it was, and we can't wait for Adam Silver to drop the hammer. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS and join the conversation. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
President Obama heading home from the Philippines, arriving back in Washington early this evening. And Congress already in town. Watch out. Hey, good morning, everybody. What do you say? Tuesday, April 29. So good to see you today. And thank you for being part of the program. You are part of the Bill Press Show every morning, booming out to you live from our nation's capital. Coming out to you on your local progressive talk radio station. Good to see you this morning, where you happen to be in this great land of ours. And also joining you on Free Speech TV. We got the satellite dish on DirecTV and on our video stream. It's TawkrTV, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. And people all over the world tuning in right now to get their Igor fix. Prince Igor Volsky.
Oh, yes. Back again.
From the Center for American Progress, Think Progress, managing editor of Think Progress. Thank you, Igor. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, bus is running early this morning and everything good.
Well, got it on time as always, of course. What do you think, I'll be late?
As always.
Says radio.
That's right. And Free Speech TV.
Of course.
Yeah.
Both.
That's why you're dressed so Natalie this morning here.
That's right.
For your fan
It's a
club.
blazer with a hood, everybody. Always there when you need it.
For the Igorians.
Always there when you need it.
Right?
The old blazer with
Yeah,
a hood.
of course.
It is a rainy forecast.
Exactly. You don't know when you're going to need a little pullover.
I went hood.
Who makes that?
Today,
Eddie Bauer?
But you.
Eddie Bauer? No?
No.
Oh, okay.
Bill, please.
Look on your face.
Come on. There's nothing wrong
I'll
with
get
Eddie
you one.
Bauer.
I'll get you one of these. We'll style them together next week.
All right.
I have my hoodie. I get this at Lane Bryant. So
Okay. We'll try and get it on the hoodie plate. This is not a blazer and a hoodie, Peter.
If
Got
you
a
give
hoodie. Easy to get a hoodie.
Hey, Cyprian, bring me my hoodie. It's hanging in your studio there. Okay. Meanwhile, Peter Hugberg and Elisa Murphy here.
Hey, good morning.
Right. Good morning, Alicia Cruz on the phones. Where's Cyprian? Come on, Cyprian.
Come on, Cyp.
There it is.
Seen things at one time.
Oh, there you go. Oh, you do have a hoodie.
Oh, wow. Look at this.
It's just called a jacket.
Yeah, that's called a jacket.
It's the
Very
hoodie.
broad definition.
I know, you know.
Yeah. We've
It's
all
a
got- there you
jacket
go.
with a hoodie. That's what you've got. A jacket with a hoodie.
Bill.
There we go. All right. We are just getting started here on hour number 2 with Igor. See, when you come, Igor, everything falls apart. Yeah. Hey, it's falling apart for Donald Sterling, too. You watch after the NBA drops a hammer a little bit later today. We hope. Meanwhile, Conan O'Brien warned us last night that we have not heard the last of audio tapes of Donald Sterling. Apparently, the girlfriend has, Igor, a lot more in store. Here is Conan.
It's being reported that the girlfriend of Donald Sterling may have 100 more hours of his racist audio. Yeah. Or as Rush Limbaugh calls it, a month's worth of talk radio. Just play it. You're in good shape.
There you go. So we decided next time we go on vacation, we're just going to play her tapes. Yeah.
Yes.
It would be very entertaining. No doubt about that.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Igor Volsky with us this half hour. Then Seung Kim from Politico will be joining us to tell us what Congress is up to when they come back. In the next hour, Clinton Yates here from the Washington Post is a friend of Bill, and Leo Gerard, president of the Steelworkers Union, joining us. So lots coming up. Let's get to it. But first, Peter.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Good news, everyone. Paula Deen is back.
Woo!
She announced that she is embarking on a 20-show tour. The Miami New Times reporting on the tour. It's going to be a 90-minute interactive show called Paula Deen Live.
What?
She'll be doing cooking demonstrations. She'll be giving a little speech, telling stories, spinning yarns.
A couple of history lessons.
Yeah, a couple of history lessons. Let's hope not.
Race lectures. Professor Dean.
Professor Dean.
Yeah.
7 shows have already been announced so far. Stops in Atlanta, Savannah, San Antonio, and Nashville, including a lot of time in Florida, Jacksonville, Pensacola, Orlando, and Clearwater.
So she's not coming up north.
I don't think she's going to spend a lot of time above the Mason-Dixon line. I don't think that's going to happen.
And her guest chef is Donald Sterling.
Donald Sterling, yes, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Cliven Bundy is going to give a little talk.
Opening
Donald
act.
Sterling
Opening
said,
act.
Donald Sterling, just don't bring any black people to our shows.
That's right. That's right. Craig Ferguson, the host of The Late Late Show on CBS, announced yesterday he is stepping down as host. He was serving as host for 10 years at that slot at 12:30 at night. As you pointed out, it's hard enough for us to stay up and watch The Late Show. It's even harder to watch
12:30, never.
Late Show. Ferguson said that he and CBS are not getting divorced. Quote, we are consciously uncoupling, but they are going to be doing some more projects together. He has a reality TV show in the works and a game show and things like that, so we'll see more from Mr. Craig Ferguson.
I think he's just peeved that he didn't get the nod for Letterman. It wasn't even talked about for Letterman's slot.
I think that's probably accurate. I don't even think I heard his name once talking about who replaces Letterman. So.
I never hear his name in any context.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
He certainly never got the following that Letterman did in that late slot. So. And just in time for breakfast, who wants a waffle-gato?
Oh,
no.
Come on.
I mean, if you have one,
I got to tell you, I got the whole
doing this.
I got the whole dessert hybrid thing locked down on this show. Dominique Ansel, the man who created the cronut, unveiled his latest invention. It is called the Waffle-gato. It is a twist. Look at it, Igor. There's a picture of it. We'll tweet this out. It's a twist on the affogato, which is gelato with espresso poured on top. This is ice cream shaped into a waffle, and a maple espresso sauce that's warm is poured over the top of it, so it sort of melts and becomes like a ice cream coffee situation.
Who needs that?
I mean, I eat it, but why the waffle? It doesn't seem functional.
Why
it's
the
just
shape?
Kind of like,
like an aesthetically pleasing. I don't know.
Bill could not
it's
care
disgusting.
any less.
Just I like purity in food.
He could not care any less.
No, I mean
That's right. Pick one: a waffle or ice
I
cream.
like
Go.
affogato.
Exactly.
I mean, that's an old school thing. But why with this? Why with this with the waffle?
I will never buy it. All right. Thank you. Yes,
You're
indeed.
welcome.
You lost that big customer.
Igor Volsky, you think Progress, like everybody else, has been talking a lot about the Donald Sterling flap out in Los Angeles. We're waiting for the NBA news conference later today. Meanwhile, as you reported, sponsors didn't wait around for any investigation, right?
Yeah, they're practically tripping over themselves to distance themselves from Sterling, from the sponsorship, CarMax, the Virgin America, Aqua Hydrate, Kia, whoever they are, Red Bull, companies you've never heard of are releasing press releases.
Come on, we've all heard of Red Bull.
Well, of course.
That's what keeps us going.
I just had 4 this morning,
Yeah, right.
saying, look, this doesn't represent us, which is why I think, at this point, it's hard to see what happens this afternoon, how he doesn't lose the team, how he's not, doesn't end up donating some millions and millions of dollars to some charity that empowers minorities, and tries to make this go away. Because at a point, as we saw recently, with Mozilla and all these other companies, that you can have kind of private opinions, whatever you want, but when those opinions enter the private realm and begin interfering with your business decisions and start hurting your bottom line, whoever you are, whatever kind of company you are, you end up kind of reacting to that and trying to make the problem go away as quickly as possible.
Yeah, 3 cheers for these companies. I love the fact that they said they realize that the association with him is so poison that they weren't going to wait around.
No.
What? Wait a week? Wait 2 weeks for an investigation? Boy. And nobody, by the way, has really, not even Donald Sterling, to my knowledge, has denied that the voice is his voice.
No, I don't think he said anything. The kind of troubling aspect here is that it took so long. It took so long for the NBA to act, because this guy has a history, as everyone's discussed, from all the discriminatory cases to everyone, women and minorities, saying that he's both sexist and racist on a regular basis. And the fact that this kind of thing was tolerated in the larger NBA culture, I think is troubling. The fact that, as Travis Waldron wrote yesterday on Think Progress, that there's so few women in positions of power in the NBA, so few minorities, is part of the reason why there was kind of like a tacit acknowledgement not to talk about this guy and not to let this be known about.
Yeah, he certainly had his defenders, that were around at the time that he said these other horrible things. I think a lot of this could be chalked up to just the times. Number one, it's on audio.
Yeah.
And you don't have to read these horrible things. You can hear these horrible things. And as Travis, we had Travis on the show yesterday, he said, what he said, while is truly horrible, is one of the tamer things that he's said in his career. Right?
Yeah.
Like, he has a really, really nasty history. But everybody can hear it. Everybody can digest it. And the fact that even if you don't follow sports, if you just follow people on Twitter or, the right mediums, you will hear that audio. And it is shocking. It's shocking that today, someone who runs a successful organization comprised of mostly African Americans,
the overwhelming majority,
yeah,
can have these ideas and these thoughts and actually put them out there.
Now, here's one thing that bothers me, though, that we know in the media, we can only handle one issue at a time.
That's true.
All right? So suddenly, all we're talking about is Donald Sterling, and everybody's forgotten about Cliven Bundy.
Yeah, well, that's why it's
who is
been a
still
week.
out there, which is, as offensive as Donald Sterling's comments were, Cliven Bundy is... This is armed insurrection against the federal government, right? I mean, these are armed vigilantes who are taking on federal agents, and we're not doing anything about it.
Well, it's been a big week for racists in America, and it came at a time, ironically so, when the Supreme Court ruled that affirmative action basically is not terribly necessary.
Well,
in
you know
today's
why?
America.
No, it's because racism no longer exists. Just ask John Roberts.
And I wonder if some of those justices are maybe rethinking it on the margins in some way. But we see this too frequently. These kinds of incidents, very public incidents of just unbelievable racism from very public, influential, and powerful people, and they're treated as isolated little droplets in time. But generally, we're led to believe that since Obama's re-election, racism is over, or we're in a post-racial America, or whatever you want to say. But I think these kinds of moments are really endemic of still a large problem in America with race, in certain parts of America with race. And it's unfortunate, I think, that the court doesn't see that.
There's no doubt about it. And plus, the alacrity with which Rand Paul, I'm back to Bundy now, with Rand Paul and Dean Heller and Ted Cruz, they all went out to embrace Cliven Bundy. All these Tea Party people. I mean, the point that there has been a strain of racism in the Tea Party from the very beginning. I went to some of their early rallies here in Washington, at least two of them, and I thought I was at a Ku Klux Klan rally.
I mean,
right?
Some aspects of the Tea Party, Clive Bundy, Duck Dynasty, it's a long, long line of these kinds of guys that Republicans embrace because it speaks to a segment of their base. And the fact that not a single prominent Republican is willing to stand up and kind of very publicly condemn, through a press release, not through some aid, but publicly have a conversation about those elements of their voters who believe and still do in the inferiority of African Americans or gays or any other race. The fact that they're not willing to do that in 2014 is just beyond belief to me, not willing to have a real conversation, because there's just this dynamic that these folks who vote for Republicans in turn, talk about the dependent, the elected officials talk about the dependent culture and urban men not knowing how to work. I mean, all these dog whistles and code words for race, and it's a reinforcing cycle, and somebody, a leader within the Republican Party, a conservative leader, has to be strong enough to break it.
Right. So that we shouldn't be, what you're saying is we shouldn't be so shocked that these sentiments, that some people believe them and some people even express them. What should be shocking is that there's no leadership on the Republican Party, of course, to stand up and condemn this and say this will not be tolerated. We will just sort of move on. I mean, I'm thinking back to, remember the one moment in the 2008 campaign when some woman at some town hall said something about President Obama, candidate Obama. And John McCain right away said, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. He's a good man. He's a good family man. I just disagree with him on policy. That's the kind of leadership we need today, rather than these guys fawning over Cliven Bundy, who is, again, just an outright bigot, racist, ignorant slob.
But look at what happened in 2012 when you had Rick Perry, Santorum, Michelle Bachmann signing that family leader pledge out in Iowa that said that black children were better off under slavery, basically, because they had stronger family units. I mean, this is a real kingmaker out in Iowa, this guy, Bob Vanderplatz, who put out this pledge that Republicans literally tripped over themselves, A, to sign, and B, to appear with Bob Vanderplatz in Iowa to get his endorsement to win Iowa ahead of the caucuses, and they had no huge problem with that. I mean, this is a real problem.
But didn't you hear Cliven Bundy? Blacks are a lot better off when they were picking cotton, singing songs.
And if they don't understand that it's Martin Luther King's fault.
That's right.
Right.
It's amazing that we have Cliven Bundy who makes his own warped. It's okay, Igor.
I'm playing footsie with you. I'm so
Igor has
sorry.
been kicking me throughout the whole show. You have Cliven Bundy, who's making pro-slavery comments. He is for slavery.
Yes,
He's trying to make the case that slavery is a good thing. And then you have the owner of the Clippers making these comments about African Americans. It's insane to me that those two things happened in the span of like a week.
Yeah, in 2014
In
America.
2014, with Barack Obama as president.
And both of them are folk heroes for Fox News. They haven't embraced Donald Sterling yet, I don't think.
Well,
yeah, but they certainly embraced Cliven Bundy.
Yes.
All right, Igor Volsky here. We are looking forward to your joining the conversation at 866-55-PRESS. Don't forget, it's thinkprogress.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You make it sound very easy to take these 90-degree turns in your career. You went from engineering to law. But there's an awful lot of people at that age who feel they're on a track, they've invested time in learning a career, and they need to see it through to the end, or maybe their parents are pushing them to stay in one route. What is your advice for a young person?
Stay away from your parents.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
My mom is a pretty spectacular human being. We essentially came to the United States as refugees. And that is when I really got to understand who my mom was as a person. Being a refugee in a foreign country, you would think that it would affect you so much. It was like my mom, nothing changed for my mom. What was really at her core and her center was always being with her kids and getting to spend time with them and making sure that they were okay and making sure that they could still go out and play soccer. I knew that if my goal was to go to Liberia and to work on economic justice so that, kids could go to school and have access to a doctor if they have malaria, that if I bet on their moms, we win.
I think I just come from a lineage of kick-ass women is all I can say. My grandmother came to this country from Mexico as a single mom with 5 children. And I, have an amazing mother who had 3 children, was going to school, working full-time. I mean, almost my story. But she did that and got her bachelor's degree at 40. And so I had a great role model. When I came home and told my mom I was pregnant, her response to me wasn't, your life is over. Her response to me is, well, I want a plan. You need to, let me know what you're going to do about this because you're now responsible for somebody else.
I was the first one in my family to go to college, and my parents were very proud of it. They both had to work. My mom in a factory and my dad in the supermarket, and I was their success story. However, on graduation day, they said, are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be an engineer? You're going to be a businessman? What are you going to, a lawyer? I said, I'm going to join the Peace Corps. And they said, what? My parents were very much opposed to this, and it was very difficult.
How much pressure did they put on you?
Tremendous pressure. Up until we were leaving from O'Hare Airport for me to go to Peru, my mother questioning me, like, where is Peru? You've never been out of the country. What do you know? Do they have doctors? Do they speak English there? What are you going to eat? You know you like my cooking? I said, Mom, I'm going to be a pioneer. Why do you always have to be the pioneer? Let them do it. Let them come back, and then you go. I said, no, I want to be the first to go.
I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, so there was a lot of gang activity, and one of my friends actually was murdered on a basketball court when a 15-year-old child shot him in the back of the head. And I was just hopeless. And my mom actually, she brought me to a place of empathy for the kids who were involved in actually murdering him, because my mom sort of said, look, where do you think those kids are coming from? And then she said, so if you're angry about it, do something. Actually change the way this world works.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we are at already 27 minutes after the hour here with Igor Volsky from Think Progress. Igor, I know you saw a very interesting story yesterday that the gay rights groups are going to start focusing on the South and the West because they feel that the coast is sort of liberated now. We got to work on the rest of the country.
Yes. Yeah. Well, as always, I think that the feeling is that you work on marriage equality in the East, where there's a lot of popular support, and then you move to those areas of the country that either have a constitutional amendment prohibiting marriage equality, and where it's a lot harder to shape public opinion. I mean, that's kind of where the fight is now.
Yeah, and those states that stand out. It's interesting that the campaign has sort of shifted, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've got the West Coast.
Yeah.
You've got the East Coast.
Now you work on the middle.
Now you work on
delicious
the
middle.
that flyover country.
Right.
Yeah, good. Which may be a little more challenging. I think so.
A little bit.
All right, great to have you here. As always, Igor,
Good
thanks
to
so
be
much
here.
for coming in. ThinkProgress.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I talk to undergraduates and graduate students who are desperate to go out and start something and build something and be the one to come up with that silver bullet solution. And I just want to say, slow down.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
Most of the people you're talking to who want to come into the social change space, are they prepared?
If you're early in your career, there's a couple of really important things to do. The first one is just to shut the hell up and don't talk for about 5 years and work really, really hard. The only way you're going to be given more difficult things to do is by solving the ones you're already given. And if you're somebody who's always complaining or wants to be promoted above where they really are, you can't learn enough to start to take on a greater pool of responsibilities.
Advice you would give a person coming out of college is go work for other people, make your mistakes on their dime.
That sounds like me, absolutely.
It does sound like you.
And you know who that came from is one of my board members, Eric Buttline. Eric had seen me start a few companies as a young kid. I mean, I started my first real company when I was 16. And Eric said, "Chid, do me a favor. I know you have this thing in your head that you think you're this great entrepreneur, but like go work for somebody for a little while and just learn how things are supposed to be done. And when you're done with that, let's have another conversation about, your next venture."
And I think another thing to remember, and this is something that I've really only learned in the past couple of years, is that although the problems are urgent and so important for us to address, I need to have more patience. I'm not going to solve those problems on my own. You're not going to solve those problems on your own. I'm an apprentice in all of this. I'm an apprentice in life. I'm an apprentice in problem solving. I'm not going to change the world until I'm at least 65. That's my goal at this point.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org to let us know your thoughts.
Tune in to the Thom Hartmann Program, a live broadcast featuring the nation's #1 progressive talk show host. Phones open at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Free Speech TV.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, 33 minutes after the hour, Tuesday morning. Welcome back here to the Bill Press Show, coming to you live from our nation's capital and brought to you today by AFSCME, our good friends at AFSCME, the good men and women of AFSCME under President Lee Saunders, the largest public employee and healthcare workers union in the entire country. Making America happen, and you can find out more about their good work at their website, afscme.org, afscme.org. Well, Washington getting a little more action these days because the Congress is back, the House and the Senate back yesterday, and President Obama on his way back to Washington today. He's already there on Air Force One, winging back to Washington from his week-long Asian trip. Seung Kim covers the Congress for Politico, and she joins us in studio this morning. Seung, nice to see you.
Good morning.
So aren't you excited? They're back. Huh?
I am excited for the flurry of activity we're going to see from these members in an election year, right?
Right. Well, we know they're back. That doesn't mean they'll get anything done.
Exactly.
or do. But what? So now they're back. How long are they here for? Before their next break?
It depends. I think the Senate is actually in all this month. The House
all this month of May.
All this month of May, yeah. And then the House may be out maybe after 2 weeks, but they'll be back another week after that.
Yeah, I mean, they don't come back for a long time, and then they don't get much done, as we say, while they're here. But it is interesting that there's sort of little signs of that some House Republicans, particularly in the leadership, might be rethinking immigration. Mm-hmm. We know that John Boehner famously mocked
He did.
his Tea Party members who don't want to do immigration because it's too hard.
It was a pretty great video. I'm sure
Wasn't
we've
it?
all watched it on countless loop a lot of times.
Yes, and we played it over and over again. But Kathy McMorris Rogers out in Washington State, who is part of the leadership, she said she thinks immigration reform will happen this year. Pete King, head of the Homeland Security Committee in the House, has come out and said he thinks it's time to do immigration reform. So are they talking to each other? Is this mean anything, or what do you think?
It's kind of this whole life cycle we've gone through with immigration reform for the last year or
I know.
so.
It's dead and it's not dead. It's dead.
Yeah,
You're right.
and now
But-
we're kind of at like life support level, maybe ICU. It's not completely dead, but it's showing us signs of life. So there has been a lot more chatter lately from House Republicans about doing immigration reform. Obviously, famously, Speaker Boehner mocked his conference saying it's too hard for them to do immigration reform.
Yeah.
But the thing is, there's no secret that John Boehner wants to do immigration reform. Like, he has privately said it, he has publicly said it, but he just has all these outside forces that are preventing him from moving, and that hasn't really changed from my conversations with conservatives and just with the broader conference. And a lot of people that did speak up in the last week or so, such as Peter King, even Kathy McMorris Rogers, Aaron Schock in Illinois.
That's right. He's another one.
Yeah, they were all people who were generally in favor in the first place. I'm not sure you're quite moving a lot of people that you need to move. So I would still say the chances of doing immigration are still very low. It would have to be done sometime in June, maybe early July if it were going to get done, but I would still say that's very low.
I mean, one thing he could do is just Tea Party members might not like it, but schedule a vote on the Senate bill and put it on the floor. He'd get the votes.
Democrats say he would get the votes. I'm not convinced yet, but it would be very close. I would say that.
Yeah, he'd certainly get the Democratic votes, and he doesn't.
He would.
Then he wouldn't need that many members of the Republican caucus to come over and vote. But they'll probably want to do. I mean, the only way he'll get something out is to do his own thing, so the House can
sort of claim it as their own.
Right.
But the thing is, they haven't moved any of their bills. I mean, they cleared 5 bills through different committees, and 4 of them were very partisan, did not get any Democratic support. And the big piece of the puzzle that's still missing, what do you do with that $11 million? There are House Republicans who are working on a bill to address that, and people who are working on that bill say they're very close to something that they can release, but they're not going to release anything until leadership tells them, yes, we're going to do immigration. Let's go. Let's get your bill out there.
In the meantime, this has been the sort of parade of the Republican bad boys the last couple of days. Let's hear from Vance McAllister from Florida. He dropped the other shoe finally yesterday. Go as far as some people want, but here's his decision.
I was elected to fill a role, and that's what I'm doing. I'm going to make sure that people hear their voice and work as hard as I can be for their congressman for the time left of my term.
So the kissing congressman.
The kissing congressman kisses Congress goodbye.
Well done. We waited all day for that line. That is great.
I think I took that from a competitor's headline a little bit, so I can't take all the credit.
I'll give you credit for it. Yeah. Yeah, he could have stopped that, but he just decided he would not. He knew he would not win re-election.
Indeed.
Right? So.
I mean, I'm sure there are members who would have preferred that he just kind of resigned and got out of the way. But we are, almost halfway into an election year. He's not going to be in Congress for much longer, and I find it very funny and strategic that he decided to announce the day that Michael Grimm, his colleague from New York, was getting indicted, and people kind of forgot about the kissing congressman for a little bit.
Right. Well, and Michael Grimm's. First of all, he was indicted for. I mean, his offenses are a lot more serious, right?
Yeah.
And not to do with any hanky-panky, but to do with some serious financial allegations. What were the charges?
I mean, there were 20 charges. There were tax fraud, healthcare issues. He was allegedly hiring undocumented workers. So this is a serious problem. And the thing is, Michael Grimm has, of the few House races that are actually competitive this year, Democrats have been eyeing his seat for a while. And this really does tip the scales in favor of his Democratic challenger. I mean, if you have a guy who's being indicted for these serious allegations.
Yeah. He had this restaurant. I still can't believe he had this restaurant by the name of
Health-alicious, I believe.
Health-alicious.
Delicious.
Would you walk in a restaurant by the name of Health-alicious?
No, I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't either. No. But anyhow, the charges are that he was filing false state and federal tax returns, concealing over $1 million in gross receipts, paying employees hundreds of thousands of dollars off the books, thereby depriving the IRS of payroll taxes. Now, with all of that, he is not resigning from Congress.
He is not resigning. He's fighting his charges.
He stepped down from his committee.
He did. He was on the House Financial Services Committee, which with the type of allegations that are against him would be a pretty serious issue to stay on.
Yeah, you wouldn't think that we would not have somebody indicted for tax fraud on the Financial Services Committee. Yeah, so he stepped down from that, but there seems to be, I guess there's a double standard here as I see it. I mean, so the guy who's got this little sex scandal is basically forced out, and Michael Grimm, who's got a much more serious financial scandal, they're letting him stay.
I think it's Republicans would say that obviously everyone has a presumption of innocence until proven guilty, and I think he is defiantly fighting his charges, so I think they kind of want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, leadership is acting very carefully on this. I think the most that Speaker John Boehner has said is that he thinks his resignation from the Financial Services Committee is appropriate, but he hasn't gone further on that. Now, the leadership does have a press conference this morning. I can guarantee you that will be asked, so maybe there will be something more later. But right now they're kind of treading on this, they're treading very carefully with the situation.
All right, now in the meantime, Grimm is on the ballot.
He is.
And he is the Republican nominee in that.
He is set. They
can't get him off the ballot. And nobody else can get on the ballot on the Republican side,
That's
right?
why Democrats are very happy right now.
Yeah. So this could be a Democratic pickup.
Definitely. It definitely tipped the scales in favor. I mean, he was already in trouble before, but now that you have the actual formal indictment, it's even if he's exonerated in a court of law, I think it's very hard to fight that in a court of public opinion.
Isn't he the one who threatened to throw a reporter off the balcony?
He did.
Was that you?
No, of course not. It was a reporter from New York One, I believe.
Yeah.
And it's funny because he was asking about these potential investigations and corruption allegations against the congressman.
These very
allegations, and now several months later, we see how they have materialized. So I hope the New York reporter gets the first question at any press conference that he holds, but we don't know. The congressman is supposed to be coming back to Washington to vote and do work. So hopefully we'll get some update from him this week.
Well, you knew, given his reaction to that question, that
something was up.
Yeah, that's right. He had hit a raw nerve there for sure.
He did. Yeah.
Congress back in town. Seung Kim's got a report on what we can expect, if anything, in the next few weeks. 866-55-PRESS is our toll-free number. We'll be right back and invite you to join the conversation here on Tuesday, April 29.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Make it 13 minutes before the top of the hour. In the next hour, Clinton Yates from the Washington Post will be here as a friend of Bill, and we'll be talking to Leo Gerard, the president of the Steelworkers Union. Right now, we're talking with Seung Min Kim from Politico about Congress back in town and what might be on their agenda, both in the Senate and in the House. It is Politico.com. All of our good friends in Politico. You can keep up on in touch with everything that they're working on and various levels. Big news out of Politico this morning. That you are sort of branching out to the West Coast, to Los Angeles. Huh?
Our
yes.
West Los Angeles bureau, that's right. We have two of our top reporters who are making moves out to LA. We're not officially opening a bureau, but if you maybe you get one more, and we have a trend of reporters heading out there. But Todd Purdom, he's one of our senior writers, moving out there. His wife has a new gig out there.
Mm-hmm. Dee Myers, former press secretary for Bill Clinton, longtime friend of mine, both of them.
And so they're a great couple. Todd has been such an asset to Politico, and now Dylan Byers, our media writer, he's moving out there with his fiance, but he'll still cover the media beat for us based out there.
Our neighbor.
So.
Dylan's our neighbor.
Oh, really?
Our neighbor. And
right around the corner.
Oh.
Right, and a frequent in-studio guest here on the program, Dylan Byers with Hadass Gold, his assistant there covering media. And, yeah.
We're just taking over the country, one state at a time.
Can you please let Dylan know when you see him that even though he's moving to the West Coast, we're still going to make him wake up and do East Coast hours to do our show?
Make sure he wakes up at 4 a.m. his time so he can come live with you guys.
Yes, just let him know that. Just let him know we sent that message.
Yeah. It's hard enough getting him here in the studio.
I wasn't going to say that.
On time, East Coast
I wasn't going
time.
to say that, but...
Right. So they're back. Yes. What can we expect this week? Any action on any front?
On some things here, the big vote that we're going to be watching this week is that long-awaited minimum wage increase vote in the Senate. Absent some sort of agreement with Republicans, it's a procedural vote, so that means you need 60 votes to basically get on the bill, start talking about the bill. But absent some sort of agreement with Republicans, and we don't see one right now, there won't be 60 votes for that.
There will not be 60 votes.
Mm-hmm.
From people who are making $175,000 a year, minimum, there won't be enough of them to grant people who are making $7 an hour or $7.25 an hour.
Enough of them to start talking about increasing.
Even to start talking about increasing minimum wage from $7.25 to $10.10 an hour. I mean, I can't do the math in my head to break down what $175,000 amounts to per hour, but it's a hell of a lot more than $10.10 an hour. And you can't even round up 60 to, as you say, not to vote for it, but to start talking about it. That is just outrageous.
And
It's
still
obscene.
early. I mean, the vote is not till tomorrow, and there's we tried to talk to some Republican senators yesterday where they are, and it's still not very clear yet. But obviously, this is part of the Senate Democrats' big election year agenda. This income inequality, we saw that with the paycheck fairness vote. We were seeing that with minimum wage,
with the unemployment insurance,
which actually did succeed over in the Senate, which was very big news.
Right.
It actually wasn't expected, so that was very. It was a win for Democrats on the policy merits of that. But with the minimum wage increase, it's a lot less clear. There isn't, on unemployment insurance, you had very strong Republican advocates for it, such as Dean Heller of Nevada. There isn't an equivalent Republican figure on the minimum wage bill as of yet.
And how about the Democrats? Are they all for it?
The leadership says Democrats will be mostly unified. I know some of the more conservative members have raised concerns about the effects on jobs and whatnot, and had been open to maybe an increase to maybe $9 an hour instead of the $10.10 that they are pushing. Mark Pryor from Arkansas is one that has been mentioned about someone who may not be a complete yes on the bill, but it's still not clear as of yet, but they're confident they're going to get most of their 55 members.
And that vote is scheduled for tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yes.
In the Senate.
Yes.
And the House on its agenda this week. I mean, you got 435 people here. They're raring to go. They've had 2 weeks vacation, tan, rested, and ready for what?
They're doing appropriations bills, kind of going back to the regular order of how Congress funds the big 12 agencies. It's kind of just a standard process that we're generally not used to, but with the big budget deal that, between Patty Murray and Paul Ryan had earlier this year, it kind of helped bring a sense to that process, being able to do that. So they're doing things like military funding this week, as well as funding for the legislative branch. So it's kind of a week business as usual in the House.
Is there any talk this time that was 2 years ago about a challenge to John Boehner for his speakership?
There's always chatter in conservative circles. I know there have been a lot of reports lately saying they are actively plotting something. No one knows. No one can know really for sure what the speaker's intentions are. I think everyone has taken signs like, he bought a condo in
Florida.
In Florida.
I know,
that means he's going to retire. But I think until we see what the results are in November or what
But is there any serious or any Tea Party people or talk of a serious challenge? Not that he would decide to step down, but somebody would decide to take him on.
I think there is a desire from the conservatives to get Boehner out. In terms of a viable alternative, not one has emerged. I think everyone looks at Cantor as sort of or House Majority Leader Eric Cantor as sort of the speaker in waiting. But I think despite all that's been written about the bad relations between the two leaders in the past, I think now they're at a place where I can't see Cantor actively challenging Boehner.
Oh, no. Yeah, I think you're right. It would have to be
Boehner decides to leave on his own accord.
Or if there were a challenge, it would have to be one of the more extreme members of the Tea Party caucus, not part of the leadership.
Exactly. I think that it would have to come from the very conservative group who are meeting, who are talking about what they want from leadership and what kind of new leaders they have.
Well, I'll tell you what, Seung-min, we depend on you to stir things up over there, okay? Because look,
I do my best.
We survived the last 2 weeks without Congress being here, right? And still had plenty to talk about.
Oh, okay, great.
But now that they're here, they got to do something.
They do. They got to earn that paycheck.
Right, exactly. They have to earn that paycheck. So we got some stuff to talk about here. Thanks so much for coming in.
Right, thanks for having me.
And we'll follow you and all your good friends on Politico at Politico.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, if you liked hours number 1 and 2, you ain't seen nothing yet. Big hour number 3 coming up. We lose you on Free Speech TV. So switch over to our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKRTV. In the next hour, Clinton Yates from the Washington Post will be here the entire hour as a friend of Bill. And Clinton and I will be joined by Leo Gerard, the colorful president of the United Steelworkers. All of that coming up in hour number 3 right here on TawkrTV.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years. I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime.
I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live.
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas.
I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
All right, President Obama is on his way back on Air Force One. He will get a refueling stop at Elmendorf Air Force Base in Alaska, and then on his way back to Washington, arriving at Andrews at 5:45 tonight and back at the White House at 6 p.m. The Vice President starts off the day, breakfast with John Kerry, and then all on meetings at the White House. When we come back, Clinton Yates here is a friend of Bill from the Washington
Press
Post.
Show.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org to let us know your thoughts.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I'm a Pistons fan. Their slogan was, we come to work. That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts, and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got, a lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. Not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself blood pressure or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor is allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old, and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for.
I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed to where we're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
President Obama on Air Force One heading home from the Philippines, ending his week-long Asian tour, arriving back at the White House today at 6 p.m. And the House and the Senate are already back in town. And so are we. Good morning, everybody. Tuesday, April 29. Here we go, coming to you live from our nation's capital and booming out to you on your local progressive talk radio station across this great land of ours and all around the planet on our video stream at TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Good to have you with us, and so pleased to welcome back in studio a good friend of the program, frequent guest host. He wants to do it more often, but I just refuse to take more time off. Clinton Yates from the Washington Post. Hey, Clinton, how are you?
I'm good. Just tending to my chickens and gardens, That's all I'm doing.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. Oh, but you're happy. You know that.
I'm very happy with my station in life.
Oh, yeah, indeed.
That's all I've been up to.
Good to see you, man. Enjoying your team here. You're part of the team. Peter Ogbird and Lisa Murphy. Hello, guys.
Hey, good morning.
Alicia Cruz, she's there on the phones, waiting for your call at 866-55-PRESS. And Cyprian Bolding behind the scenes here, keeping us looking good on the video stream. I know one of your favorites. They're dropping like flies, man, in late night. First David Letterman, and last night another big announcement. Craig Ferguson, here he is.
At the end of this year, I will be stepping down as the host of this show. Thanks, everybody. That was quite convincing. I'll be stepping down at the end of this year in December, and I'll go and do something else. Probably I'm thinking carpentry.
I really do like Craig Ferguson. I know you guys don't get to watch a lot of late night because of the schedule and so forth. But
it starts at 12:30.
Yeah, it's a little late. But, he did a true sort of quirky show. That late slot it's different than the normal sort of Tonight Show 11:30. It's not quite as bombastic. It's not quite as sort of, this is the business of American show. It's not quite that kind of thing. And he found a way to get in a very quirky lane. And it was one of those things where once you got into it, it was very, very funny. He had a talking robot as his sidekick, which was ridiculous. And he also had this like pantomime horse thing. It was the kind of show that was like, it was a kid's show, but it told adult jokes kind of stuff. They would do ridiculous gags, and there was never any pretense that it was smarter than anything else. And that's what I really liked about it. And the fact that I think he's a Scotsman, the fact that he was not American allowed him a little bit more leeway, oftentimes to discuss American politics in a way that was very interesting. So every once in a while something big would happen. He would always start the show and say, "It's a great day for America." That was his big bit. But when something bad would happen, he would describe it and then, lots of time end it and say, you know what, it's not a great day for America. The guy is a very sharp dude, and anybody who's watched that show for the past 10 years knows that.
Well, he will. He's not going away forever, right? He's going away from that show. But Peter said he's got some other irons in the fire. He'll still be out there.
Yeah.
I do think it was interesting and certainly a slight that his name wasn't mentioned.
I didn't hear it mentioned at all.
Yeah, and I think that's also just a bad look for CBS in general. It's like at least give the guy a cup of coffee. Why? Come on.
Okay. So Clinton here for the entire hour is a friend of Bill. We'll be joined by the one and only Leo Gerard, head of the United Steelworkers Union, a little bit later. Let's get right into it. But first.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Some sad news to report, but it's not totally sad. Our friend Larry Sabato, politics professor, he is giving his final Introduction to American Politics class lecture today.
No.
It's his final day at the University of Virginia. He's not going to be giving the class anymore.
But he's still going to be head of this.
He's still going to be there, but he's not going to be
Center
giving
for
this
Progress
class.
Or whatever it is.
Yeah, the Introduction to American Politics. It's sort of a legendary class at the University of Virginia. Give a long speech, and it's going to be visited by Terry McAuliffe.
Oh,
the governor
will
show up, and he is expected to announce that May 3rd, 2014 will be
Larry Sabato Day.
Larry Sabato Day in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Oh, that's great.
Bring the Bacardi.
Yeah, there you go. 1 billion reasons why Walt Disney did not buy BuzzFeed. Fortune magazine has the story of how the Walt Disney Company tried to buy BuzzFeed.com earlier this year. They were trying to buy them. BuzzFeed said, sure, we'll sell for $1 billion.
1 billion. Didn't they evaluate it something closer to like $200 or $300 million? Like, I mean, $1 billion is a screw you. We don't need you.
That's like, sure, you got $1 billion? Yeah. Give us $1 billion. Walt Disney Company obviously did not have the type of money to
I kind of
pay
like
for
that negotiating tactic.
Yeah,
like,
right?
I mean,
Like,
why not? Yeah, you know.
What do you got to lose?
Exactly.
They don't take it. You keep doing your thing.
Which is going very well.
Very, very well.
Now, I don't mean any disrespect, but I just want to say, when I think of Evan McMorris Santoro,
come on.
I don't think of Disney. So I don't think that would have been a good fit.
Every time that he comes in here wearing the Goofy mask. Right. Wait, that's not a mask? No, but seriously. So they turned it down. There are no talks going on anymore. So that
okay.
Shout out to a couple of my friends at BuzzFeed, John Stanton.
Yeah.
Shawnee Hilton.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
we love.
Yeah, no,
BuzzFeed.
I know. I'm not implying you don't.
No,
I'm just
we
saying,
don't love BuzzFeed.
Got to give a shout out to my peeps.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And some bad news for the Washington Nationals. They found out yesterday that Bryce Harper is going to have surgery today to repair a torn ligament in his left thumb. He injured on Friday night, sliding into third against the Padres. Harper is 21 years old. He went on to play another inning with that busted thumb.
Hustle.
Total hustle.
Didn't want to get benched again.
I know.
I don't want to get too far into the weeds on this, but it is very upsetting as a Nats fan that Matt Williams has decided to take this far.
Yeah, it's a bad idea, and it's bad news for the Nationals, and he's going to be out until early July.
Yeah, that is a there goes the season situation as far as I'm concerned.
It's not good.
Right. I mean, but this is not. This is. He had to have this surgery.
Yeah,
right?
you can't play baseball if your thumb is jacked up. That's pretty much the only way there is to it. You need your hands to do everything involved.
What a heartbreaker. Yeah, indeed. And you say a season breaker, maybe. Indeed. Well, God, where do we start? I mean, okay, Donald Sterling or Cliven Bundy? Like, where do we start? Or are they one and the same? And should we be shocked in this country? To hear comments like from a Donald Sterling who's head of owner of an NBA franchise?
To me, the shock value is not really what's important. To me, what people have to understand is the systems of American economy that allow guys like this to thrive. People always say, "Oh, well, he's rich, that's why he did." But people don't seem to understand that, when you come from a certain place, when you exist in certain avenues, in terms of structural poverty, and therefore on the other side of it, the ability to make money, it pays to be discriminatory. This is the reason why this guy's situation is so interesting, because you hear him talk. I mean, presuming that's him, again, not yet confirmed.
Oh, it's him.
But you hear him talk about how he sort of fears not being racist because his entire financial framework of his entire career is rooted around discriminating against other people, because that is the system that the American way has allowed. So, the shock value of the statements is one thing, but looking at the system within which this guy has prospered is really what this is all about. Housing discrimination is not just a matter of, real estate. It's a matter of how various urban landscapes have played out, Chicago, LA, and whatever, and what happens after that. And I mean, honestly, and I heard my buddy Bomani Jones talking about this of ESPN on a different radio station yesterday. He said, look, I don't care what this guy does with women. His housing practices have created a much bigger problem in terms of a lot of the urban plight, or not his specifically, but that mindset has created such a bigger problem in terms of what urban plight is about in America that you have to look at it on a far more macro level with a guy like this.
Can the NBA in any way allow him to go forward or to go?
No. Adam Silver is speaking at 2:00 today, and I imagine he's going to announce an indefinite suspension and a fine probably around the $1 million range, which is not any sort of sweat on him, Silver, but forcing
on paper
him to,
is big,
right? And forcing him to stay away from the arena is a big thing because he is one of those look at me guys. There's a story a while ago about Baron Davis, a former NBA basketball player, who said that he would come to games. He said he started to loathe coming to games, Davis did, because Sterling Silver, that's an interesting combo on the television, would come to games and heckle him, call him a jerk and call him selfish. And he said he lost his will to play because an owner was heckling his own player, one of his star players. I mean, think about what kind of sort of sociopath you have to be in order to really do that kind of thing. And so I think that keeping him away from games would be the biggest hit to Sterling's ego possible.
Now, I just got to play this because this sound is just so outrageous. Yeah. But everybody's been weighing in on this, including, of course, that great intellect, Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No doubt whom he blames this all on. Do we have... okay, just a second here. We'll find it.
Donald Trump, one of the minds of our era.
One of the great minds of our era. That's right.
This was at the Mensa meeting. We got some tape of it.
Here on Fox News yesterday.
It's terrible. He got set up by a very bad girlfriend. Let's face it. That whole thing is she's called the girlfriend from hell.
Right.
But what he said was terrible and despicable, and a very strong action is going to be taken. There's no question about it.
Yeah, blame the girlfriend.
Yeah, I mean, victim blaming in this situation is preposterous. I mean, sort of we talk about the race factor, we talk about the money factor, but everybody seems to be throwing away this obvious case that he is a terrible misogynist. I mean, some of these cases, in terms of the sexual harassment suits that he's been dealing with, he has said some absolutely preposterous things. And never mind his actual behavior. Let's not get into the fact that he's in a somewhat romantic relationship with a woman some 50-odd years his senior when he's a married man. I mean, his junior, pardon me. Yeah, and that's an aside, but for people to
the fact that this wife seems to know all about this and doesn't seem to care.
Well, yeah, but I mean, who knows?
It's so bizarre.
Right, it's very bizarre, but I mean, to me, I don't care what this woman's intentions were. It doesn't change the fact of every single thing Donald Sterling has done as a landowner and as a businessman in the NBA. That you can't just conflate the two. I mean, they are separate issues as far as I'm concerned.
Let me ask you this: Why is it that he got away with this for so long, and why is it that this is the thing? Because I agree, we had
that's a good question.
Yeah. We had Travis Waldron in yesterday from Think Progress, and he said that you look at the history of Donald Sterling, this is one of the more tame things that he's actually said and done, but it's created this outcry, and a lot of people never realized that he had this problem.
Look, I think the reason why he's been there and been in this position so long is what I got back to. When you look at the power structures of the privileged, this guy, people don't realize this, longest tenured owner in the NBA.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, the longest. Okay, he has outlasted everybody. So his concentrated power in terms of that elite group of people, you know what I mean, who own NBA squads is major. And, David Stern has a lot to play in this as well. Former NBA commissioner whom we've heard nothing from, by the way, which, to be fair, he is retired. But he allowed this guy to run roughshod. And, people say, oh, how did they just look the other way and allow this? No, they didn't allow it. They emboldened this. They gave that team Chris Paul and made them a major market force yet again when they were trying to trade Paul to the Lakers. So you can't just say that the NBA sort of allowed this to happen. They fostered and emboldened this guy to be the way that he is. And so on some level, 81-year-old guy, there's no reason to be shocked, no reason to be surprised. This is what has made him money. Discriminatory practices based on his ridiculously old-school plantation politics beliefs.
And the only person happy about all of this is Cliven Bundy, the rancher from Nevada, because nobody's talking about him anymore. We're going to take a quick break. We're here with Clinton Yates from the Washington Post. By the way, I just have to tell you, breaking news. CNN is reporting as we speak that a company claims it has found wreckage from the missing plane. CNN is going to keep this damn story alive for at least a year. It's the Bill Press Show Tuesday. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
This is the Bill Press Show.
24 minutes after the hour, Leo Gerard from the United Steelworkers coming up in the next segment with us here, me and Clinton Yates, columnist for the Washington Post, and follow his work at WashingtonPost.com or just check in when he's here on the program. So I I do lament the fact that Sterling has pushed Cliven Bundy because in the news media, God knows we can't handle more than one story at the same time, right? So nobody's talking about Bundy anymore. But here's a guy. He made some outrageous racist remarks as well, but he was also taking armed vigilantes right around him, taking on federal agents, right? And he's called a hero by Rand Paul and Dean Heller and Ted Cruz.
The racism is almost an aside to this guy's whole wacko operation. I mean, have you seen some of those videos of they got people, all over the place with these federal agents and stuff, and this is, to any American, this should be a frightening circumstance. I mean, absolutely scary. There's no reason that this kind of thing should come to this. I mean, we're talking about a guy for, 2 decades has been a complete scofflaw to the federal government.
Total freeloader and not paying his grazing fees. And you know what the grazing fees are? $1 today. They were less then. 20 years ago, they're a lot less. $1.35 per month per cow.
Per head, yeah. If he was subject to the state grazing fees, he'd be paying more money. That's what's so ridiculous about this. I'm like, not only is this guy, a complete scofflaw, he doesn't seem to understand what's going on. He seems to be an idiot, which is even scarier. And I don't know if you know Sean Hannity or any of his close personal friends, but that scenario has been incredible. I'm like, how on earth did you manage to hitch your wagon to this guy? I don't know, man. I know there's a lot of different tentacles.
Well, wait a minute. He hitched his wagon to George Zimmerman before.
That's true.
And Ted Nugent.
And Ted Nugent. Remember, he went down there, interviewed George Zimmerman, basically making him, a victim.
Right.
And then Ted Nugent. And now the latest is Cliven Bundy.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it's really scary because Fox News has just moved into the realm of, and I don't do a whole lot of media bashing. Somebody that works in it, I don't like to do that. But, this is beyond a left and right thing. This is what's going on with your whole credibility scale? Like, what are you doing if this is on your editorial schedule every day in and day in and day out?
And notice, Hannity was quick to say, I totally disassociate myself from his racist remarks, but he's still right when it comes to government overreach. No, he's not.
Unbelievable.
No, he's not. I mean, it is armed insurrection. And then Bundy compares himself. How do you like that?
To Rosa Parks.
To Rosa Parks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rosa Parks, by the way, who gets tossed into every single discussion that has anything to do with anything going on about any sort of,
I'm taking a stand. I'm this generation's Rosa Parks.
Donald Sterling probably compares himself to
I
Rosa
want
Parks.
Extra ranch dressing.
I mean, I remember when, Outkast, very famous hip hop group, got some flack for people saying, oh, they're disrespecting Rosa Parks because they made a song that was her name. That was basically just a party jam. Every person I hear that mentions Rosa Parks half the time is disrespecting her because they're comparing themselves to something they definitely did not do that she was certainly a part of. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. But I mean, the thing that gets me is that now that the media attention has kind of moved on, I think Bundy might get away with this.
Well, do you think that
he's still got his cattle? I don't know where they're grazing now, but
I got to give those agents some credit, though. I mean, because that could have easily escalated into a disastrous situation. And the fact that they managed to quell that without it turning into a shootout on the corral. Oh,
and those guys that showed up with guns, that's what they wanted.
Yes.
That's what they wanted.
Pointing guns at federal agents.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah. But so I hope that somebody in our government has a video of those guys with their guns and where they came from, and they're tracking them down because that is a federal crime.
That's why I pay taxes.
I'm right. When we come back, Leo Gerard with the United Steelworkers joins us here on the Bill Press Show with Clinton Yates. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, here we go. 33 minutes after the hour of The Bill Press Show, coming to you live from our nation's capital. Clinton Yates from the Washington Post here in studio with us as a friend of Bill this hour. We're brought to you today by the United Steelworkers and their international president, Leo Gerard. The United Steelworkers, North America's largest industrial union, representing over 1.2 million active and retired members. And you can find more about their good work at their website, usw.org. And Clinton, this weekend, a big weekend in Washington, D.C., the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Absolutely, nerd prom.
The president's going to be there, and I'm going to be there. And I've got a real hot date for Saturday night. Let me tell you. Oh,
Hold on. Let's guess.
All right.
It's not
take
me.
Guesses.
And not even from Washington, D.C., from Pittsburgh.
Oh.
My hot date for Saturday night. He joins us on our newsline right now. Leo Gerard, the president of the Steelworkers. Hey, Leo, how are you?
Oh,
I'm not sure now.
That's funny.
I'm fine.
Well, it's going to be fun Saturday night. So,
looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's pretty lively. I hope the president. I know the president will be in good form. He always is, and we'll
Hope
see.
he doesn't get offended if I wear my Pittsburgh Penguins onesie.
People can wear anything they want at that dinner. Hey, Leo, tomorrow the Senate is finally going to get around, according to Harry Reid, to voting on the minimum wage, $7.25 to $10.10 an hour, indexed to inflation. About time, huh?
Absolutely about time, and I'm pleased that they're doing it. And as I've said to people, it's a very, very, very important step, but we ought not to have any illusions about it. It will take a lot of people off of food stamps and do a lot of good, but it's nowhere near what a living wage should be. But congratulations to Harry and to the Democrats for moving it forward, and let's see what the Republicans do now.
Yeah, I was just going to say. I mean, I hope they can move it. They were able to move unemployment insurance over to the House, where it's just been sitting there ever since. But they're not. It's not by no means certain that they'll be able to get to 60 votes to even debate it on the floor.
Well, look at that. Here's sort of the interesting thing. If you, what I call follow the dots, they run their mouth. They being these Republicans, they run their mouth about cutting this and cutting that, not government subsidies. Well, if you raise the minimum wage to $10.10 or $10.50, that'll save about $4 to $5 billion with a B of food stamp expenditures where people won't need food stamps because they'll be getting paid by guess who? The private sector.
Yeah, right.
Okay? And if you look at most of the places that each time we've had a fight about raising the minimum wage, the argument from the right-wingers has been the same, that it'll cost jobs. Well, if you look at the reality of what's happened over the last few times they raised the minimum wage, it didn't cost any jobs. In fact, it created jobs because it put more money in the cycle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. President Clinton made that point this week that he raised the minimum wage when he was governor of Arkansas, when he was president, on. And every time the economic impact has been positive, not negative at all.
Well, you get a multiplier effect. The person on the minimum wage isn't going to go invest their money in the Cayman Islands the way Romney does. A lot of these guys, they're going to invest their money in food and in clothing and in maybe helping their kids,
Yeah.
Leo, Clinton Yates here from the Washington Post. I wanted to ask you about, a lot of people, the situation at Northwestern University. Not a lot of people really, I think, understand what that sort of means and how that impacts anything from a sort of a union standpoint. People sort of oversimplify it, but I just wondering if you could sort of break down, how that situation has unfolded so far.
Well, look, here's part of what, and I don't want to be, seen as one of these people that's always criticizing the mainstream media, but what they did is they missed the agenda, they missed the point. The students that not only at Northwestern, but we have the National Collegiate Players Association, which is not a union per se. It's a collection of student athletes, or college athletes, as we should call them. Ramogi Hume is the president of that. He signed up 17,000 kids into that. These are 17,000 kids who want to have a voice, and they've tried to push for that voice through the NCAA, and the NCAA refuses to talk to them, refuses to meet with them. So they concluded with some of the folks like Kane Coulter that the next step had to be to try and form a union so they can have a voice. And they're not asking for a voice so they can get paid wages. What they're asking is a voice so they can know what their scholarships are going to be uniformly, whatever college you're at. They want a voice in their own health care because they know, these student athletes know people who had been collegiate athletes, got an injury, and they're carrying their injury into their 30s and 40s and 50s and got to pay for their own health care, so that big business should take care of that. They wanted to have a say in concussion discussions. How do you protect kids against concussions? So it wasn't about money. Now, the reality is that we've proven that this isn't students being athletes. These are athletes being asked to be students if they can. And Northwestern, to praise Northwestern, Northwestern has one of the best graduation rates, but we all know that there's schools that have graduation rates that are 50% and lower. And so part of that also was to have a discussion about the ability to have educational assistance, whether that's tutors, whatever the process is. And I use Kane Coulter. Kane Coulter was wanting to be in pre-med, but he also loves football and wanted to have a chance to go to the NFL if he could. So he postponed because he had to put in 50, 60 hours a week healthcare. He postponed going to pre-med to see after he graduated. So he now graduated, and if he wants to go back to school, he can do that. So this isn't about wages.
Mm-hmm.
And we're now in the point where the key issue that the NCAA is angry about is that the National Labor Relations Board is going to be asked to review whether these students who are in fact college athletes are going to be deemed as employees. And if they're deemed as employees, that changes the whole debate. Now, the other part that's going on is you've got two other lawsuits. You got the lawsuit, the Ed O'Banion lawsuit, that where the NCAA and NCAA is trying to hold a position that says we own your likeness for life. And we can do whatever we want with your likeness for life, and we don't have to give you any money. And Ed O'Banion is saying, look, I've left school. You're using my likeness, then I'm entitled to something, and we ought to talk about that. Then the other piece is there's now an antitrust case, because if individual collegiate athletes aren't entitled to have a discussion, and colleges aren't allowed to have a discussion, and the NCAA rules are the rules, and that's the only thing you can do, then that sounds like it's an antitrust matter. So there's a whole bunch of issues moving forward, and they're simply to give these college athletes a voice at the table, not to get them paid.
Let me
and let me just praise our union. We've been working with these kids for 12 years.
Have you?
We don't expect a dime. We're not going to collect dues.
Right.
We're just thinking that this is a moral obligation that we have, that everyone knows that the NCAA system does not work on behalf of the players. It works on behalf of the coaches and the athletic directors and the NCAA brass, but it doesn't work on behalf of the college athletes.
Yeah. Good for you. Now, this election was held Friday, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
So do we know how it went? Or no? When will we know?
Not sure. It could take months. It could take years as it works its way through the system. But let me say this. It was absolutely outrageous, the length that the NCAA went to intimidate these kids. You know, remember, these aren't 35-year-old NFL players here.
Yeah.
Or NHL players. These are college kids between the age of 18 and probably 23. They called their parents, told them they could lose their scholarship. They brought them in one-on-one, threatened them, told them that you're making a choice between the coach and this other third party, and this was the most anti-union, vicious campaign that they were able to conduct under the rules of the NLRB. That shows you how broken the American labor law system is.
Yeah.
And so we're not sure how the vote will turn out, but here's the issue. We've already won the first couple of steps. You saw young Napier talk about having to, from UConn, the star of the game, having to go to bed hungry, and says, in fact, some nights I go to bed starving. Well, guess what? 2 days later, 3 days later, whatever it was, they now announced that college athletes can have unlimited meals.
Yeah. No, it's true.
They used to be able to say you're only allowed so many ounces of pasta, for God's sake.
It's crazy. I read a story about the Northwestern coach who, I guess in some sort of speech to his players, told them that if, depending on how they voted, they would be betraying themselves and the program. And it was very sort of psychologically vicious, and it seemed to be preying on the fact that these kids were not in a position of power. And it was very distressing. You just think that you trust someone with, effectively your life. That's what you're talking about when you're a football player, or really when you're a college athlete at all. You're trusting them with the safety of your body. And to think that they would turn around for such purposes and sort of try to manipulate and intimidate you is very distressing.
The athletic director and the president of Northwestern, which is academically a really good school, didn't leave a stone unturned. They, in fact, told these kids, think about this now. You signed up for a scholarship that you don't know get renewed. You know the power they've got. And the athletic director and the president of the university say, if they vote union, we might just cancel the program.
Wow.
What do you do then? What do you do then if you're a kid?
Right.
You call mom and dad? And what will mom and dad tell you?
Yeah, because canceling football counts with a lot of other things too, And when you're a college athlete, you got friends that play other sports that go to your school. That's not just a matter of your own team.
Also, they wouldn't be there without that if they weren't there playing football, right?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So it's a decision for more than just the guys who are in your huddle.
And finally, I've got to run along here, but the NLRB is going to hold a hearing or whatever, review this.
The NLRB has been asked by Northwestern to review the determination. We're very, very, very confident that we'll win that determination when it takes place, because you're not allowed to introduce new facts. You've got to review the decision that was made on the facts that were presented, and the facts that were presented are overwhelming in every category that the NLRB uses to determine if someone's an employee. They met the standard.
They fit it. Hey, you're fighting a good fight there, Leo, there, as on many other fronts. We'll thank you for your time this morning and look forward to a big party this weekend.
Okay.
All right.
Take care.
Okay, thanks.
Don't abuse me.
Leo Gerard, head of the Steelworkers, USW.org. Clinton Yates and I will be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek, Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more? How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
Enough.
Enough. Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook. Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act. Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
12 minutes before the top of the hour. Clinton Yates here from the Washington Post as a friend of Bill. His writes column for the Washington Post, WashingtonPost.com. Clinton, we're all waiting for the other shoe to drop this afternoon from the NBA on Donald Sterling. But I got to say, the sponsors didn't wait around for any investigation.
No.
Boy,
Good for
that
them.
was impressive, wasn't it?
There are a lot of Clippers on TV, by the by. You know what I mean? There, Blake Griffin, Chris Paul. I mean, these guys are not. Right? You see these guys on TV. I didn't sort of realize how much I saw them on TV until as soon as these comments hit, I started watching. I'm like, damn. Every time I watch a game, I got the Clippers all over my screen. And they're not playing basketball. They're hawking products. So I kind of commend a lot of companies.
And the companies are continuing their affiliation with the players, but not sponsoring the team.
Which is doable, which means basically they don't wear their Clippers gear in commercials.
Quick thing I just want to throw out, because this is breaking news from TMZ. NBA lawyers have listened to the audio, all of the audio, in the presence of V. Stiviano, the girlfriend that had the recording. They are satisfied that it is Donald Sterling's voice on the tape. This is the NBA lawyers according to TMZ. So if that was part of the question, if that was part of the equation as to whether or not the NBA would actually find that this was Donald Sterling's voice, they are satisfied that's him.
So they know it's his voice. Now the question is, what are they going to do about it? But again, I was impressed that these sponsors, Chromax, State Farm, Virgin Atlantic, Virgin America, whatever. I mean, they were out. Red Bull, they were out there.
Here's the thing,
out of the box.
Is that,
boom.
I mentioned this sort of power structures that allowed him to stay as an owner, but that's not necessarily how the globe is working at this point. He even though he's the longest tenured owner, which allowed him power within that club, but he's also the oldest guy there.
Right.
So everybody else, these younger owners are like, look, you can't have this, and their sponsors feel the same way. And, you're in LA, you're in a big market. You can't just he's not in Milwaukee. Right. You know what I mean? He's not in Orlando. Right. He's in Los Angeles. You say stuff like that, people are going to notice.
These new younger owners don't want anything to do with it.
No, absolutely, and they should.
All right. Now, we know that this is a big event this afternoon.
Yes.
The biggest sports event of the day, of course, is in Chicago tonight.
My Wizards.
Now we got the Wizards and we got the Bulls, and it's 3-1. And,
Wizards are closing it out.
Shut it
down. It's
down.
happening. The Bulls don't have a chance. Whenever the game was, Sunday, there was a point in the fourth quarter, and you know this look, Peter, when you're playing a ball game and you start to realize, I don't think we can win this game.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we're as good as this team. And you just start to, yes, and he had that look where you're just like, oh, he just suddenly admitted to himself that they are not going to win this series, and he is not really sure what to do about it. I think that the Bulls are in the position of noticing that, like, hey, the Wizards are just better, and I think that that's something that the Wizards know as well. They're getting an A back. They almost play better on the road. They did all season, in fact. I think this actually could be a blowout. Yeah, that would be very interesting to see.
I think they close it out.
A Wizards playoff blowout.
All right, just for the record, I want to go on the record as saying the Bulls are going to win tonight.
You panderer. You are
pandering to affiliates.
I'm going to stand up for our friends in Chicago at WCPT. I'm not saying the Wizards won't win the series, but I mean tonight I think it's the Bulls that's going to make it 3-2, and then the next game will be even all the more exciting.
Your thoughts?
I'm with Clint. I think it's going to be a blowout. I think that you're exactly
back in
right.
Chicago,
the Wizards
home court.
That's obviously done nothing for them the entire series.
It helped out much. They lost the first two games there. No, I mean it's great to see them hitting on all cylinders like they are. And I think, Clinton, you nailed it when you said the Wizards now realize that they can do this. There were a lot of questions even among fans.
Now they're even. I saw a story this morning saying maybe they could go all the way.
Hey. Look,
keep hope alive.
There is a path. I'm just saying. With the Hawks beating the Pacers, if that happens, there is a path where these Zards could be out here in these streets playing for titles. This is like unbelievable. I don't even know how to react to that. Anyway.
Pretty exciting time in Washington, D.C. All right. Maybe that makes up for Bryce Harper being sidelined. I don't know. Anyhow, it all works out. Hey, Clinton, great to see you, man. Thanks so much for coming in. All right.
Glad
Fun
to be
see
here,
you.
per usual.
And,
getting back to my chickens and gardens. I'm just kidding.
I'll be back with the parting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, let's hear a big cheer for CarMax. How about another big cheer for Virgin America, for Corona, and Red Bull? And while we're at it, big cheers for Mercedes-Benz, Sprint, Amtrak, Kia, State Farm, Lone Mart, Aqua Hydrate, and the Yokohama Tire Company. Those 12 companies didn't wait for any investigation. They knew the voice making those racist comments on the audio tape was Donald Sterling, owner of the LA Clippers. So yesterday, all 12 of them dropped their sponsorship of the Clippers effective immediately. Many of them were longtime sponsors of the Clippers, but they couldn't bear to have their good products tarnished by any further association with an out-and-out racist. Good for them. You know, we often complain about the nothing matters but the bottom line attitude of big corporations. Well, yesterday's action shows that once in a while, at least, there's something much more important at play, a sense of decency, a sense of fairness, and respect for everybody, qualities which Donald Sterling does not have at all. So there we've got it. The market has already acted to punish Donald Sterling. Now it's up to the NBA. They better act soon, this afternoon, and be as tough as they can. That's my parting shot for today, folks. Tomorrow, Mark Leibovitz from the New York Times joins us, author of This Town. Have a great Tuesday. Come back and see us tomorrow morning. We'll be right here waiting for you. See you then.
This is the Bill Press Show.